Welcome back to the TwinSpires Racing Roundtable. I'm Ashley Anderson, back from freshening on the farm, as our producer Blaze put it last week. And thank you to Blaze for filling in so nicely so I could take some much needed PTO. It's good to be back with you, James and Vance. We're going to be talking the Breeders' Cup Classic, a rebound win by Cody's Wish, and other performances that impressed us over in Europe. We had a number of Breeders' Cup win-in-your-in events overseas as well. And James, we'll start with you today. Let's talk about the Breeders' Cup Classic. After this weekend, did you feel like any race affected the Breeders' Cup Classic picture?
Well, first off, it's good to have you back, Ashley. And probably not a serious impact. I do think that the Lucas Classic winner, Clapton, has a shot to grab a minor award potentially in the Classic. Now, there were three races: the Awesome Again at Santa Anita, the Woodward at Aqueduct, and the Lucas Classic at Churchill. Slow Down Andy and Zandon recorded convincing wins in the Awesome Again and in the Woodward. I don't think either one of those horses is either good enough or has the affinity for the mile, or is effective enough at the mile-and-a-quarter distance to offer a challenge in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Clapton will obviously face a serious class check at Santa Anita, but his form has really improved of late over the last 6 months. He's earned triple-digit speed ratings in his last 3 starts. And Brisnet late pace numbers as high as 111. So that bodes really well for him. The Breeders' Cup Classic is setting up to have a confirmed pace setter in Arabian Night, possibly the favorite. But if Saudi Crown, the Pennsylvania Derby winner, joins the mix and he's considering the Breeders' Cup Classic, he's got everything to go for in that spot. That race will get a big boost of speed. All of his wins have come wire to wire on the lead. So Clapton could get some pace in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And if he gets a favorable setup, I wouldn't be surprised to see him close for a minor award, Vance.
Yeah. In contrast, I kind of thought Zandon's victory in the Woodward, which snapped a long losing streak dating back to the Bluegrass in 2022, was actually a pretty solid effort. Now, he wasn't beating much in the Woodward, but that's been kind of the case with the division all season. It's an unremarkable group of older male horses going long on the dirt. But from a speed perspective, it wasn't as good as White Abario's Whitney. And of course, Zandon lost that race by more than 6 lengths. On the other hand, I thought it was about as fast as what we've seen from some of the top 3-year-old male contenders coming up for the Classic. So obviously Zandon's propensity for minor awards is a weak spot, but stretching back out to a mile and a quarter for the Classic, I think he could be a bit of a sleeper in that race. I think he's probably going to be more effective than White Abario is going a mile and a quarter, and definitely more effective than Slow Down Andy, who kind of took advantage of a paceless race in the Awesome Again over an off track and won wire to wire. So I'm a bit more bullish on Zandon than I was before the Woodward. But again, he's kind of a horse that likes to run second and third more. And another good thing about him, he's very consistent. He's obviously going to go on underneath a lot of exotic wagers in the Breeders' Cup Classic, Ashley.
Yeah, I agree with you all. I think all 3 horses are certainly horses to play underneath in your exotics, but wouldn't give Slow Down Andy much of a chance to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. We just saw him lose to Arabian Night in the Pacific Classic. He has 2 for 3 at Santa Anita, but that other win came at 5.5 furlongs on debut. So not going to put much weight into that. With the Zandon, I do feel like, winning by 4 1/4 lengths in the Woodward has a chance potentially with the pace out as well. But again, I don't think any of these horses are really the win contenders. I think Arabian Night is that horse that I would probably bet to win in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Well, let's talk about the winner of the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile last year, which was Cody's Wish. He rebounded after losing in the 1 1/8 mile Whitney, came out and won the 7 furlong Vosburgh this weekend. What did you make of his win, Vance?
It wasn't one of his more scintillating performances. He did start a little slow, got into the race a lot sooner than he typically has in one-turn races. He was already challenging for the lead, approaching the quarter pole. Obviously, he outclassed that competition. He was 15 cents on the dollar to win. You would have expected him to win as expected. He obviously wasn't going to be fully cranked to win the Vosburgh either, not with the dirt mile title defense coming up next month. But, nonetheless, he hasn't looked quite as imposing in his last 2 starts as he did earlier in the spring when he blew the field away in the Met Mile and the Churchill Downs. So, going into the dirt mile, he seems to be, potentially vulnerable based on what we've seen his last couple of starts. And, I wouldn't be surprised, I think, if the bettors kind of looking ahead towards the dirt mile are possibly thinking about taking a stand against him at very short odds. What do you think, James?
Yeah, I thought you made some good points. I want to give Cody's Wish credit. He won six straight stakes starting last summer in the I'm sorry, in the started last spring in the Westchester at Belmont Park, and then he strung together six straight wins, including four straight grade ones. And I think he's just a terrific dirt miler. When he was at the top of his game, like he was in the Met Mile this summer, he got a 110 Brisnet speed rating. He blew the doors off that field just brilliantly off of the far turn. We saw the same turn of foot in the Churchill Downs, the race before the Met Mile. But I'm a little bit worried he's not in that same form right now. We didn't see that same acceleration in the Vosburgh. Obviously, when they tried him at 1.125 in the Whitney, he came up extremely flat. And I thought the Vosburgh performance on Saturday, Ashley, was a little bit underwhelming. Now, granted, he may not face the toughest field in the dirt mile at Santa Anita, and I don't think the two-turn mile distance will be an issue for him, but I am a little bit worried that we've already seen the best of his form, and he could be a little bit vulnerable at Santa Anita, like Vance said.
Well, yeah, he clocked his second lowest Brisnet speed figure of his career with an 88 in this race. Bill Mott said, though, it was the perfect tune-up for him, and said that it was, commendable that he was able to come off that slow pace and win. Of course, you still kind of are concerned with that speed figure, and he could be vulnerable, but he's a feel-good story, guys. Don't you want him to close out his career with a win in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile?
I mean, it's possible. I'm just like, it's that race is a little bit like where, we're so far out still. We got all these one more round of preps for a lot of horses that the field's really in flux a little bit. So he's such a top class performer that I won't put it past him at this point, but there are some current concerns coming off that effort.
Well, you mentioned Saudi Crown potentially in the Classic, but he could also run this dirt mile as well, right?
Oh, yeah. And I would like Saudi Crown, I have to say, just off of that Penn Derby. I thought that was terrific. I think that horse has gotten really good for Brett Cox.
Yeah, I'd potentially bet him to pull off the upset there. Well, let's move over to Europe, which I know, Vance, in particular, you're a big fan of European racing. And we had a number of Breeders' Cup win-in-year-end events overseas, especially at Paris-Longchamp. Well, aside from Ace Impact, who is now 6 for 6 after winning the ARC, what else stood out to you all this weekend over in Europe? We'll start with James.
Well, Ace Impact, he's not going to come to the Breeders' Cup. He may go he could either be retired, it looks like, or go take on Equinox possibly in the Japan Cup turf. I want to mention the second and third place finishers. They're both 4-year-old sons of Frankel. Westover ran second. Westover made a move to overtake Huckham, and then basically got overtaken himself late by the winner. But I thought he showed a lot of courage. He dug down deep and held off Ernesto, who was flying late for second. And we're going to get both both Westover and Ernesto. Their connection said they're going to take a serious look at the Breeders' Cup turf. I think their participation would be tremendous for Santa Anita in this year's Breeders' Cup, because both horses were Group 1 winning 3-year-olds, but Westover for sure has gotten a lot better this year at 4. He ran a really good race, went second in the King George, stood by ahead to Huckham. He won the Prix de St. Cloud Group 1 race in France before that by open length. So he's just really good now off of that ARC runner-up effort. And Ernesto, he didn't come back until August. The ARC was his third race back, and he really, he had run against Auguste Rodin in his previous start, which just didn't really tough that day. So I thought that was a big effort. One thing about Ernesto, he ran his final 600 meters in 33.06 seconds. That was as fast as Ace Impact, because Ernesto was last in that 15-horse field. So he came flying late. And I also want to add one other thing. I'm taking a lot of this stuff from Kelly Riley. If you want outstanding international coverage for the Breeders' Cup and Vance as well, check out the TwinSpires Edge. And before I get off of it, I know it wasn't over the weekend, But Uspa Tesoro came back last Wednesday. We did last week's roundtable on Tuesday, so we haven't mentioned him. He tuned up with a convincing win in Japan, the Dubai World Cup winner. He looks like very talented type. He switched the dirt last year, is 7 for 8 on dirt. I think he could be one of the favorites in the Breeders' Cup, Ashley and Vance. So he had a good race as well in the last week for the Breeders' Cup.
What do you think, Vance?
Well, I'm going to go to the juvenile male division in England, which is very deep and competitive, seemingly from distances ranging up from 6 furlongs up to a mile. And early Saturday at Newmarket, they had the Royal Lodge over a mile. Now, that was not a Breeders' Cup win in your in, but it was part of the European Road to the Kentucky Derby Series. However, traditionally, the Royal Lodge is more a precursor for the 2,000 guineas than the Kentucky Derby. Now, the winner of the Royal Lodge, I think, is a very exciting colt named Ghost Rider, who made it 3 for 3, winning the Royal Lodge. He was traveling smoothly throughout the entire straight mile, called willingly, moved into contention under Richard King's coat, under mild encouragement, and then pulled away to win by a length and a quarter. Not sure if he's going to run again the rest of the year, but Ghost Rider to me is a very exciting horse for next year's 2,000 guineas. And I think he's got the pedigree also to possibly stretch out, maybe up to a mile and a quarter. He's by Invincible Spirit, and he's out of a dam that placed in the 1.5 mile Cheshire Oaks and also wanted 1.5 miles. So he's got an interesting pedigree, and he's definitely good at a mile, and he's a horse to watch for early spring classics next year, Ashley.
I'm going to talk about the juvenile fillies division. We had Opera Singer, a Justify filly who won by more than 5 lengths for trainer Aidan O'Brien and jockey Ryan Moore in the, you might have to help me with this, Vance, the Prix-Marcel, you say it.
Prix-Marcel Boussac.
Thank you. Yeah, she won by more than 5 lengths in that race, now 3 for 4 in her last 4 starts, was beaten by a head when she was second in allowance, 3 back at 7 furlongs. She faced 9 rivals in the, let's just call it the Prix-Marcel. That's easier. Am I butchering that? Is that not how you should say it?
Marcel Boussac.
Marcel Boussac. Okay, I have a French lesson now in this episode as well. And Opera Singer, she earned a berth to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. I think she'll be a huge front runner in this race. She also in the European markets was now the favorite for the 1,000 Guineas and Oaks after her performance, looking very good. Again, a Justify filly, and Ryan Moore said that, they get better with age and as they step up and trip, and even thinks she could stretch out to 1.5 miles. So certainly a filly to watch out for in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. And again, Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore won last year with Meditate in this race, so could have a chance to defend their title with this filly, an Opera Singer. What do y'all think about Opera Singer?
I thought she was very impressive, and she was one of a number of favorites that won on the Longchamp card on Sunday. So it was very formful racing for the most part. I think Kinross's loss in the Prix de la Forêt was the most shocking upset on the afternoon. But yeah, she looked really good.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have today for the Racing Roundtable. We'll be back next Tuesday with more recaps, the stakes action over the weekend. And of course, check us out on Thursday with the TwinSpires jury for our best bets and fades of the weekend. We'll see you next time.